has been staring at you all night.
What do you say we get out of here?
The fascinating aspect to me was not so much Ted Bundy or the grisly nature of his crimes, but rather the love story between him and his girlfriend. And it's a story that is not often told, and I could never find an instance where it was told cinematically in a way that we did here. I hope once audiences see this movie, they'll see that it isn't about the violent nature and the sensationalism of the crimes. It's about the humanity of the relationship at the core of it all. It's a love story, and it's told from an alternate point of view. And to me, that was always the more interesting aspect in the slasher version that it could have been.
What is it about this guy? When I feel his love, I feel like I'm on top of the world.
I think the Ted Bundy point of view has been done before. I think that's the easy way to do it. I think that's the obvious way to do it. And I think the Liz point of view is a way into this familiar story that nobody's seen before. And so I think that afforded us the opportunity to tell an otherwise familiar story in a very fresh and unique way. And it also allowed us to turn a familiar serial killer genre on its head by not concentrating on the grisly nature of the crimes and rather the emotional dynamics of the relationship at the core.
And do you have Zac Efron as actor for Ted Bundy in mind when you write the script?
I will now going forward. I wrote this script almost 10 years ago, so at the time I was imagining a fictitious Ted Bundy, and looking back on it now, I think the road was exactly the way it should have been, because I can imagine nobody other than Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy at this point now.
There are things you don't know
Hi, officer. I think I must be lost.
that will shock you beyond your worst nightmare.
What were your first thoughts when you hear you have to compose a soundtrack to a Ted Bundy movie?
I mean, the first thing was to see the movie and see if we had inspiration. And the first thing that came to me was the thing that music could supply that wasn't in the film was sort of like the voice of the unspoken voice of the victims, of all these women that he killed. And if there was some way to weave that into the story, then that would be cool. It'd be like an extra texture or layer.
You don't actually believe this garbage, do you?
It's in all the papers, Ted.
Monkey! Oh!
How did his name get on that suspect list?
I admired Liz before I started the movie, but after meeting her and her daughter and then playing her, I really felt so much empathy and understanding for someone that goes through something, maybe not to the extent that she did, but anyone who's with someone or has a friend or anyone that you work with that you think is somebody that they turn out not to be, you really gain an empathy for how they felt. And so many people are quick to say, how could she not know? Well, this is how, and this is a true story. And when you love someone, sometimes you become blind to certain things, and it is possible for a situation like this to happen. So I really respect her, and I greatly admire her story.
I want to come see you.
I was really hoping you'd say that.
Can you tell me something about your character in this film?
Yes, I'm the prosecuting attorney who is the attorney when Ted Bundy is finally put behind bars and then eventually executed. And he's sort of like the final straw. You know, he's gone to court. Ted Bundy has by that point a couple of times. He's been caught by the police. He's escaped the police. And he finally gets brought up on these charges in Florida. And I'm in charge of selling this to the jury, which ends up being the truth of these horrific things that he's done.
This case is about catching a monster.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am that innocent suspect.
You almost didn't have to think about it very much beforehand. All you had to do was start to say these things that he did, which were the lines that were written, and you felt them. It was so sad. It was so unbelievable and so terrible, and but it really happened, you know. And he got away with a lot of it because he was a charming, attractive fella, which is very odd, but that's the way the world works sometimes.
You are skating on thin ice, partner.
The media has convicted Ted before he's had his day in court.
I'm gagged, and you're not.
What have you learned from your character Ted Bundy, and what do you hope the audience will learn from him?
What I learned from Ted, never give up. I learned never give up. He, which is interesting. It'll make sense when you see the movie.
More popular than Disney World.
Did you do these things?
Absolutely not.
plotting my escape here.